for your dad. You see me leaning back on it.
Andy's up there, he's around the corner.
I don't know.
I think it's part of his DNA. Are we ready? What time is it?
As good as, yeah, 6:30 on the button. It's early for you.
I haven't started yet either. Excuse me? We are about ready to start our council meeting. We always precede our meeting with a word of prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would like to join us, I'll ask you to stand. I'm going to ask Alderwoman Sheila Whitmore to lead us. Sheila Isby.
Dang it.
I've only got 3 more chances to get that right.
That's right, that's okay. If you'll bow with
Thank
me.
you.
Our gracious Father, we thank you for the abundant blessings that you've given us. We just ask, Lord, for your wisdom and your guidance as we handle the business of the city that you've graciously blessed us with during our meeting on tonight. We thank you, Lord, for the blessings that you've given us, and we thank you, Lord, for the ultimate gift that you gave us, which was your life, so that we could have abundant life. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will call this meeting to order. Mr. Garrett, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hawkins?
Here.
Miss Mel?
Here.
Mr. Ledbetter? Here. Miss Smith?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Miss Isby?
Here.
You should have received copies of the October 11th, 2016 minutes. Any additions, corrections, or motions to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Any discussion? There is no discussion. All in favor of approving the minutes as written signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 6-0. I will point out that item A1A5, the ordinance resolving the appropriate speed limits within the city of Conway City for business, residential, and school districts. If you're here for that, we are pulling that off the agenda. That inadvertently got put on just through a triangulation of mistakes. We apologize. We're going to vet that ordinance more before we bring it back up for further approval or even further discussion, and if even then, ultimate approval. But we will be holding that. I'll ask the council at that time to hold that in committee. We will not be acting on that or discussing that tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to hold in committee. All in favor of holding this in committee for a further time to discuss it, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 6-0. Now, I also point out for the record that if we suspend the rules on any ordinance tonight to where we can waive the 3 readings and bring it forward, it takes all 6 of you, as we are missing 2 of our aldermen right now. That said, I'd like to take a moment and ask you to indulge me. We always take a moment every month in one of our 2 council meetings to thank those employees of ours who are reaching special anniversary dates. We have about 450 to 500 employees of the city that do the work of the city, that deliver the services to you, that we don't get a chance to say thank you nearly enough. So on their special anniversary dates, we like to say a special thank you to them and recognize them and make them come up and embrace them here under the cameras and lights. For 5 years of service, we have Joshua Alexander with sanitation CDL driver, who could not be here today. And we have firefighter Jeremy Solid, who could not be here today either. For 15 years of service, we have two employees. Firefighter engineer Clint Hopper went to work for us right after 9/11 back in 2001. And firefighter engineer James Jimmy King is here. Come up and we'll give him his pin. Family too, because every run he goes on, in a since they go on, we want to say thank you to them. Give a round of applause for all the
Oh, yeah.
You're welcome, thank you.
Congrats, thank you.
The next item I would like to get to is a proclamation celebrating a special year for the Conway High School girls tennis team. So I'm going to ask the Conway High School girls tennis team and their coaches, Bristol, those folks that they are, come up. Up in mass, and we'll identify everybody in a moment. So. Don't be afraid. That's a swinging door. Come right on up. We gotta get the cameras right down on you, so you can. Okay. I'm gonna make them identify themselves as we go. We're gonna start right here with you, okay? Tell everybody, you speak out loud so everybody out in Conway land can hear you.
I'm Elizabeth Adams.
And what year are you?
What grade?
Sophomore,
Yeah.
junior, senior.
I'm Savannah Dyches and I'm a junior. I'm Libby Brilliant and I'm a freshman. I'm Savannah Kennedy, I'm a sophomore. I'm Lauren Murphy and I'm a sophomore. I'm Jacqueline Rackface and I'm a sophomore. I'm Taylor Lemieux and I'm a sophomore. I'm Holly Jones and I'm a junior. I'm Alexis Rogers, I'm a senior. I'm Kate Ferguson, I'm a sophomore. I'm Bailey Glover and I'm a junior. I'm Ashley Darnell and I'm a freshman.
Coach Jeff Gifford. James Bates.
I know how old you are. Okay, girls and coaches. Whereas on October 4th, 2016, the Conway girls tennis team made history by winning the conference title in the 7A Central Tennis Tournament played at Repsman Tennis Center in Little Rock, Arkansas. And whereas the conference team consisted of Alexis Rogers, Holly Jones, Sally, Sadie, okay, sorry,
She's not here right now.
Chaffin, Amy, Garrick.
Right here.
Garrick. What's your name?
Amy Gerke,
And what's your year? You're in school?
junior.
Junior? Okay, now you gotta say Amy Gerke, and raise your hand real high.
Amy Gerke.
See, you're doing what everybody else has done. Taylor Lemieux, sophomore, and Ashley Darnell, freshman, down there. And whereas in conference play, Taylor Lemieux finished 4th in singles and qualified for state. And whereas the doubles team of Ashley Darnell and Zaylee Jeffin finished in 5th place and qualified for state. And whereas the double team of Alexis Rogers, Holly Jones, clinched the 7A Central double title, finishing the season with a 24-0 record and qualified for state. And whereas the girls tennis team is coached by Jeff Gifford, who was named 7A Central Girls Coach of the Year, like how not.
Wow.
Therefore, I, Tab Townsend, Mayor of the City of Conway, Arkansas, do hereby congratulate and acknowledge the achievements of the 2016 7A Central Conference champions, Conway High School Girls Tennis Team, hashtag Wampus Cats. So congratulations.
Congratulations. Well done. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Your mom
You've got a young team.
Yes, very young.
Late comer. Thank you.
That's good. Oh, I bet.
You know, it only was sustained tonight. I've never seen that at the council meeting.
Hey, Miss
Congrats, man.
Go, John.
There was a reason she was. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, you know that you're going to have to come back this time next year because I only heard one senior on that team mentioned. So I'm assuming that these young ladies are going to come back with a second straight
I'm taking
state
repeat,
title next year.
repeat,
That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see.
All right.
That's a boys. Oh, gosh.
Moving on, we have our monthly financial report. Our CFO, Tyler Winningham, could not be here tonight, but if you want to make a quick perusal through that, if you already haven't, you'll see that we are running slightly net revenue above expenses in general fund, although sales tax continues to be flat at very best. We actually dipped in our most recent, which are not in these numbers, in our most recent collections that were sent to us last night. We dipped about 2%, so that put us back slightly under for the year compared to the same time last year. But you'll see that while our annual revenues are coming in flat and have been relatively flat for years, our cash position, reserve position, and balance sheet is fairly strong there. If you look at the street fund, you'll see we're still a net expense for the year, but that included a $2 million outlay that we had not, we had not planned on 4 years ago, but it was our match for the opportunity to build the Dave Ward Drive improvements east of Interstate 40 that allowed that development to go through, so that was money well spent. And we're inching forward on making up for it. And we're in, again, a strong position on the balance sheet with the street fund. In sanitation, we are showing net revenue for the year. There are still quite a bit of capital outlays to go. In that, you'll see the under budget still is about $2 million to spend. So that closely matches up. And again, another strong balance sheet in sanitation. The airport is showing, as always, the main mover is fuel for resale as an expenditure versus airport fuel sales, and you'll see that cost of goods sold is about only 2/3 of what revenue is there, and that shows us a net revenue for the year. So we're in good position. Improving our balance sheet for such a brand-new department every year, which is solid. And then moving into our special one-time funds. One-time, it's not an annual revenue so much as it's an annual expense as it is an annual revenue. So we collect a positive balance in that until we spend it on projects. Parks and Recreation at $2.4 million as of the end of September. Pay-as-you-go sales tax, which is funding a large portion of our street work, is at $3.4 million. Street impact fees at $577,000, and park impact fees at $338,000. Any questions on that report? I'll defer them to our Chief Financial Officer when he's available.
Make a motion to approve the monthly financials.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the monthly financials. Discussion? If not, all in favor of approving the monthly financials signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 6-0, and now we move into community development portion of the agenda. Mr. Hawkins, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First item is consideration to approve the fiscal year 15 audit presented by BKD. And if you wouldn't mind stepping forward and tell us how good or how otherwise we did, that'd be a good thing.
Well, I'm Andy Richards, a partner on the city's audit for 2015, and I think overall, as far as the audit results, I think we've got you've got great results as far as audit's concerned. You've got clean opinions on the financial statement as well as compliance on your federal grants. and there were no significant internal control deficiencies or things that we categorize as material weaknesses as far as the control, as far as the procedures and the checks and balances of the city. And so really good news there as far as just how the audit went. So really went smooth this time, and you know, as we continue to work with the city, I see things just continue to improve, just the little things year over year. And so really appreciate the city staff and the good job they did helping us get through the audit. Probably the biggest thing, there's probably three things I probably need to point out to you in the financial statements if you hadn't already seen. 2015 is kind of the whammy year for all the cities. It's the year that government had to adopt the GASB 68 accounting standards for net pension liabilities. And you probably may have read about some of this in the papers at some time. You know, typically accounting standards don't really make a whole lot of headlines, but obviously the pension obligations for state and local governments has been a big deal for a long time. And so we've kind of known about this coming, and I think we've probably talked about this maybe, you know, being adopted this year in past meetings, but this was a year that we actually had to put these the full net pension liabilities on the books of the city. And so what you'll see is, you know, you've got 4 defined benefit pension plans, 3 of them related to police and fire, and then your non-uniform defined benefit pension plan. So you had 4 different plans that had to adopt this. And so, you know, you'll see if you looked at the statement of activities, the main financial statement, you'll see there's an adjustment to the beginning net position, about $35 million. To add the beginning of the year liabilities to the city's books. At the end of the year, the liability was $48 million for the governmental activities, and about I think it was about $7 million for the business type activity. So it's a very large number to all of a sudden put on the financial statements. You know, what I can tell you is, you know, everybody's kind of in the same boat. Everyone's seeing this impact to the financial statements. You won't see it in the general fund if you're looking at the fund financial statements, and this is probably what you're similar to looking at when you do budget to actual or the financial report that the mayor just gave. You know, that's still more on a kind of a cash or what we call a modified accrual basis. So it's more of a short-term look. These liabilities are going on the full accrual financial statements, which captures all the liabilities, you know, all the bonds outstanding, all the long-term liabilities are on there. So that's where you'll see that. The other thing to note is the airport fund. We actually, working with the financial department, you know, all the activity of doing the airport was being running through the general fund and also through some of the capital projects funds in the past. And so this is the first year that it actually got placed in service in 2015 and up and running. And so that got transferred. That activity actually is over in the enterprise funds now, kind of next to sanitation. So that's a new fund, airport fund, and it, you know, represents the activity of the new airport. So just want to point that out to you. That was about a $27 million transfer of net assets from the governmental funds to the business type activity. So you might see some fluctuations there, and all that is just transferring activity from one place to the other. Then the last thing you'll probably see is you had a large bond issue activity in 2015, a $26 million bond issue, sales and use tax, you know, for your city, your streets program, and also small refunding. So it's probably those are 3 things are probably the largest highlights of the 2015 financial report. You know, a little more detail about the audit work that we did. You know, we don't just focus on the financial statements and put an opinion on those. We also opine on your compliance with federal grant requirements. The Airport Improvement Fund, that federal dollars that you get from that, that was a major program again this year, and so we tested compliance there. We actually issued an opinion on your compliance that you got a clean opinion on that. Really no issues as far as that goes, so really good results there. I think the city will continue to be a low-risk auditee, you know, going forward. if you keep up this track record of just having good marks on the audit as far as compliance goes. The other thing that we're required to opine on would be your compliance with state laws, just specific state laws that mainly pertain to the Arkansas municipal accounting law, and then laws, surrounding the police department and district courts. And so there's an examination report in there, and we actually opine on your compliance with those specific state laws that are cited in there. And so we didn't have any issues there. Everything seemed to be in its proper place, and everything was done correctly for 2015. So just a lot of good news there. I think the net pension liabilities, that accounting change I think has been a big concern for a lot of cities. So that may not be the best news to hear, but like I said, I think governments all across the country are in the same boat dealing with that, and that's kind of fresh information for the first time. So I encourage you to kind of look over that and make your assessments about the conditions of those net pension liabilities. Anyway, that's my presentation. So
Any questions of Andy? I will say that that net pension liability that we're just now seeing on the full books
right.
has been there, and it's always been hanging off books for some time. The GASB 68 ruling requires us to put it on books now, which is full disclosure and transparency.
That's right.
But it's always been hanging out there. It's not something that's been acquired all of a sudden. We've known about it and are planning for it. Had to get some of our actuarial studies up as much as possible. You will probably see, I don't know if it'll be doing it by the end of this year, but certainly by early next year, ways to address and limit future liability in that fund. It being a defined benefit plan that is underfunded, there are changes that are going to have to come, and it will require your action on that at some point. And when we can get some good recommendations to you, that will be helping limit that liability that's hanging like the sword of Damocles over us at some point if it ever does fail. And the projections are better than they used to be.
Yeah.
But they're still not great. And so we're going to have to deal with that at some time. So thank you. And actually, it's timely that you bring that up in that sense that it's going to require our action.
Yep. Very good.
So, any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Andy.
I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to approve this 2015 fiscal year audit as presented by BKD. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor of this approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That carries 6-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is resolution requesting the Faulkner County Tax Collector place a lien on property as a result of incurred expenses by the city. The property in question tonight is at 34 Azalea Loop. Is there an owner or representative of an owner of the property at 34 Azalea Loop in Conway with us this evening?
Seeing no one, Mr. Hawkins?
We have a resolution, Mr. Mayor. It's Resolution R-1653.
Make a motion for adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Motion and second for adoption of this resolution. Any discussion? If there is no discussion, all in favor of approving this resolution, placing this lien against the property at 34 Azalea Loop to repay the city ultimately for conditions that the city has corrected at that address in the amount of totaling up to an amount of $205.98. All in favor of that resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That carries 6-0. And Mr. Hawkins, the next item was paid today.
I received that note from Felicia in your office, and she received that from Missy Lovelady, who had forwarded that to her.
I will take a motion to hold this,
So moved.
to remove from the agenda. Motion and second to remove from agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 6-0, Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is consideration to remove fixed assets inventory from the airport department, and Mr. Zilks is stepping forward to tell us about this tractor that he's wanting to get rid of.
Thank you, sir. What we're trying to do this evening, we've got, as you can see, a 2008 model Kubota 2920. It's a little small size tractor that we use as a tug to move airplanes. It was a piece of equipment, again, like the last time I was here, that was acquired from the old operator of the airport. Something that I've been wanting to replace for a while and was hoping to do next year, and been some recent mechanical issues that cause it to become a need that needs to be addressed quickly. I've got a bid to trade this in on a new one. We've got the budget money available to buy the new unit, and is on state contract. It's been bid, but we just need you guys to approve taking this off inventory so I can trade it.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Take this off of inventory so we can trade it in on a replacement unit. Any discussion there?
Yeah.
If there is no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 6-0. Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Zilks.
Zilks, is it appropriate to mention what you and I talked about earlier today?
It's up to you.
Is it okay with you?
Sure.
Mr. Zilks will be wed here in the next couple of weeks.
Congratulations.
And I just found this out, so congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Needs to update on Facebook quicker.
I know. I know. Thanks, sir.
That is,
But congratulations.
that's good stuff. Thanks, Josh. Item 5, I guess we need to talk about taking this off the agenda, even though
We already
it's
did.
been-
We already had a motion.
Thank you very
holding
much.
committee, so.
So then, if we've done that, then we'll move on to number 6, and that's an ordinance accepting and appropriating donation funds for the Historic District Commission, and this will be ordinance 016-117.
117.
Make a motion to waive the 3 readings and bring it forward.
Second.
Motion and second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor of waiving the 3 readings and bringing it forward for action on tonight's agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 6-0. The 3 readings are waived. The ordinance is on the agenda for action on tonight's.
A motion for adoption.
Second.
Motion and second for adoption. Discussion. This is an accounting ordinance. It recognizes a grant funds of $2,628.36 and allocates those not only to our revenue budget in our officially adopted budget, but into the various expense line items where they can be expensed for the purpose of the grant. Any other discussion? Being an ordinance, Mr. Garrett.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter? Yes. Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
That passes 6-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance to rezone property located at 1310 East Dave Ward Drive. It's presently zoned I-3. The requested zoning is C2. This was reviewed by the Planning Commission at their meeting on October the 18th. And at that time, the commission voted 9-0 to forward this to City Council with a recommendation of approval. And we have an ordinance to be read for this. It's ordinance 016-118.
Make a motion that we waive the 3 readings.
Second.
Motion and second that we waive the 3 readings and bring this forward for action on tonight's agenda. All in favor of waive the 3 readings signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 6-0. We have the motion before us for action.
Make a motion for adoption.
Second.
Motion and second for adoption. Any discussion? Anybody like to talk to this from the audience?
This was originally requested as a C3, and was it
Bumped it down.
felt or determined by the Planning Commission that we should probably lower it a little bit, lower the density a little bit?
Brian Patrick, Planning Director, so those in the world who don't know. Yeah, at the Planning Commission meeting, the original request was for C3, and I believe rightly so, they decided it probably should be back down to C2 because that's getting on the very edge of our city limit, and we should be tapering it back down at that point. We have the I-3 area there. I mean, it's I-3 now, so that's that is our intensive industrial zone. C3 maybe, didn't have a particular project in mind at this time, and actually there's a 5-year lease on the property, my understanding, to continue to be used for mobile home sales. And when that 5-year lease is up, then he's kind of getting it prepped for the future to become a more shopping opportunity or a hotel or something like that. So C2 fits that description without going full bore with the C3. So that was their reasoning.
Good.
Thank you, Brian.
Any
Thank you,
questions?
Brian.
While you're there, Mr. Patrick, I will ask you a series of questions. We do have, and this seems like a proper zoning for this piece of property. On the other hand, it does bring up the opportunism that arrives with any new traffic improvements that we put into the city. And I'm thinking back over into West Conway, as we improved Hogan Road and Prince Street, through that corridor, there was a lot of speculative rezonings to commercial property that are still sitting fallow right now and are not being used. So we do have a very strong tendency to overzone areas beyond what the market would say they need to be. Looking at this strip and looking at beyond even the city limits as we expand, do you feel comfortable that our master planning, their comprehensive land use plan and all master plans that we have are solid in this area, or do they need to be updated and tweaked? And you can answer
Well, wait,
after Union Pacific goes by.
probably good enough. The answer is no. I mean, our comprehensive plan right now is 2004, and one of my things on top of the agenda to get done has been for several years is to attack our master street plan, number one. I mean, which to do the master street plan correctly, it really needs to be context sensitive in what is going on either side of the road. In the past, we've just planned, it's going to be a major arterial. Well, that's cool, but what else is going to go on either side of the road? Because, Dave Ward Drive is a major arterial, as Prince Street is a major arterial, as Donaghy right now is shown as a major arterial. So anyway, to answer the question, we're working off of a 2004 the master street plan has been somewhat tweaked, but our comprehensive plan in at least this area still shows it to be industrial, and as the desired use is industrial, intensive industrial. We know that's changing at this point because I don't believe the Kimberly-Clarks are coming to that area anymore, and we're shifting them to the new airport and the Guy Murphy industrial area, other areas instead, basically. So we don't really want that to be our industrial area at the gateway to the city. So anyway, to answer the question, we need to sorely update our master plan and master street plan, comprehensive plan. And I've told many people in the past, I had it started when Donald Anthony was here, where we were going to basically march around the city and do small area plans. And maybe that would be good for 10 years, another chunk good for 10 years, and basically just keep rotating through our master street plan. And since I'm down a planner, I haven't been able to get that level of finesse going again. We did the Markham Street Plan through the grant money from Metro Plan, et cetera, through the consultants in Dallas. So that was a good thing, and that added to our catalog, I guess you could say, of small area plans. But we need to attack it. I mean, from any angle, to me, the moonshot, as I call it, looking at the whole city is okay, but we really need to get in even more fine and look at those areas individually. But right now, to answer directly the question, yes, that needs to be looked at in that area, because right now on the master street plan, it shows as industrial, and I don't believe that's our desired use for that area right now.
Well, you certainly know how to use a soapbox. Good job. That was a softball I was hoping you would hit.
Since you asked.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, the council can look forward to, at least while we don't totally go with bilateral symmetry in our zoning, that a matching zoning across the street was probably going to be coming down the pike in due time. And that's just, unless we put some kind of limits on it, there's a marching down the street of commercial zoning. So I will encourage this council sometime out in the next fiscal year to possibly consider that as a need. And it's not just in this area. Like Mr. Patrick said, there's needs across the city for more specific tailoring of our master street plan
At
and
this
zoning.
point, this zoning in particular, I mean, it's large, but it goes with our node system where we basically have our major intersections. We try to limit a commercial node there, and like to say, this is fairly large, way beyond probably what we would have dreamed as far as commercial there. But I feel it's appropriate. You've got a major highway, you've got a major interstate, they come together. What else? Either it's going to be multifamily or it's going to be commercial, basically. But we've got to start tapering it off as it goes, so we don't just strip out the road. I feel better about stripping out the road a little bit, at least like a road such as Dave Ward Drive with a divided median, because it at least cuts down a lot of the crazy traffic, and we have our joint access, shared access, our development review regulations these days, which greatly cut down on the number of crazy turning movements you can make in autos. So we've got some good regulations in place, but, and like I say, in this case, I think it's appropriate in the fact that it's one of our major nodes, but the idea is once you get away from that major node, it's supposed to taper down into something of less use and even get all the way back to residential at some point, which is hard when you're on a major highway, but, so anyway.
Very good. Very good. Well, we put the bug in their ear. It's
There you go.
very good. Thank you. Any other discussion on this particular rezoning request? I-3 to C2 at 1310 East Dave Ward Drive. If not, being an ordinance, Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
That passes 6-0. Mr. Hawkins?
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance to rezone property located at 1182 Lolly Road. It's presently zoned A1, and the requested zoning is an I1. This was reviewed by the Planning Commission at their October 18th, 2016 meeting, and at that time, the commission voted 9-0 to send this to City Council with a recommendation of approval. And we have an ordinance to read for this item. It's ordinance 016-119.
Make a motion that we waive the readings.
Second.
Motion and second that we waive the 3 readings and bring this forward for action on tonight's agenda. All in favor of waiving the readings signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 6-0. We have the ordinance before us for action.
I make a motion for adoption.
Second.
Motion and second for adoption. Discussion, anybody like to speak on this issue? Discussion, council?
Good.
Just for the record, while we have always talked and have never really put into practice the idea that we really wouldn't zone for residential in an area that would be defended by the levee on the river. So if the levee ever broke, we wouldn't have to rescue people out of subdivisions. This is an area that is somewhat residential. Was there any discussion of that at the Planning Commission meeting? Sorry to make you,
Should have stayed. No, not so much. This use is a grandfathered use. It's a cabinet shop, basically, and they were brought into the city involuntarily, I guess you could say, through a island annexation. So they've been there many years. Basically, this zone is just catching up with the actual use that's going on there. There were no, the 200-foot letters, all that was, the normal notifications were sent out. There was nobody at the meeting that had a problem with it, any of the residences around the area. So it's a spot zoning in a way, but it's actually.
it's something we typically handle with a grandfather, but is there something that prohibits that opportunity from happening here? Expansion maybe, or?
Well, they want to expand their shops.
They want to
Therefore,
expand the
that's
shop,
the
okay.
reasoning that all this really came about. Otherwise, they could have kept on doing what they were doing in the space they had. But they want to expand the shop and actually make it nicer. They've got more business and need space to take care of that. So in that way, it's good, encouraging a local business to, get a little bigger and get more business and maybe
Absolutely.
more employees and all that. But it's basically just catching up with what has been going on there all this time. It's a little bit different use. If it wasn't there already, probably would look at it in a whole different light, but as is, it seems to make sense.
Okay. We do have that tendency to clump on, just like the last issue, clump on zoning to zoning. That wasn't the intention of the Planning Commission, to move on that line and establish an industrial. So that really,
No.
and while we don't create precedent, we can feel precedent sometimes by the existence of existing.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't
zoning.
expect any more I-1 zoning in this area. That was the best zone that fit this use for what they were doing. They could have possibly come at it with a conditional use through an RU1, but it just made more sense to go ahead and give the zoning that fit it best, so they could expand and do their business. But no, I don't want to see, I don't think there should be a beginning of an industrial park there or anything like that. It's just a spot zoning in a way to catch up with the actual use that's going on.
Right. And I certainly am it's going to be interesting to see how we actually develop in that area, particularly further down off the higher ground into the Lolly Bottoms itself, if we ever do that. But this area, it has a chance to be something more than just industrial, and I want to make sure we protect that. So,
Right.
very good. And that, you answered my question. You don't go too far.
There's more.
Any other discussion? Mr. Garrett?
Mr. Ledbetter? Yes. Mr. Hawkins? Mr.
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
That passes 6-0. Mr. Hawkins?
Final item here, Mr. Mayor, is consideration to amend a conditional use permit, permit number 1353, which allowed the operation of a private mental health practice at 1312 Donaghy Avenue. The Planning Commission looked at this at their meeting on the 17th of October of this year, and at that time voted 9-0 to forward this to City Council with a recommendation of approval with some revised conditions, and the revised conditions are listed in your packets in italics. They are changing their days of operation, Monday through Friday to Monday through Saturday. Total of number of employees goes from 4 to 6. The conditional use is limited to the original applicant and to John Priest, Christian Perspective Counseling. The existing structure will be used for restricted office. Character of the structure shall remain residential. Parking limited to the existing driveway in the rear of the structure, and the signage shall be a post and arm sign or a 2-pole sign limited to 4 feet high, no larger than 16 square feet, and it meets the old Conway Design Overlay District guidelines pursuant to freestanding signs. No additional signing will be allowed, and with those changes in the conditions of the original conditional use permit, I move that we grant this new conditional use permit.
Second.
Motion and second to grant this new conditional use permit. Any discussion? Anybody from the audience like to speak on this? Okay. Mr. Patrick, my question to you would be the signage on this. 4 feet high and 16 square feet is half a piece of plywood. And if this is replicated every single property in this area, would that be the signage standard we would want to live with in that area?
Well, currently, that's the old Conway standard. You have to go to the Historic District Commission Board if you want a sign larger than that. Now, that is for a commercial use. Obviously, a residential use doesn't get that sign. So in that respect, this is different than an average house in the area, but a church, a business in the old Conway overlay district gets to put up a sign basically without having Historic District Commission approval that meets the bounds of 4 feet by 4 feet. I mean, and that, in this case, the applicant, I don't know if they're here or not, they were looking at, a more.
This is larger than y'all, so this is.
A 2-pole sign or what, post and arm sign is the one like on Washington. There's 2 or 3 more I'm familiar with, Fritzie Vomans and
Which
Hendricks
tend
has
to
some out there.
look in scale. So my issue is about scale.
Right.
For a small front lot, location versus a church, which tends to spread out a little bit further.
Right. So, I mean, I wouldn't want any larger than that. I think it's an okay size as long as, especially if you're talking about the 2-pole, because we measure from dirt to top to side. So you've got 2 poles or a post and arm, and it's got to fit within that 4-foot
So
space.
the free
basically.
space underneath doesn't count. You can't
Like,
be
everything
4
counts.
foot tall and 8 foot wide, but only have sign down the top 2 feet, so you get your 16 feet.
No. So it's got to fit within that 4-foot box, the whole mechanism, whether there's space there or not. So, and that's where the old Conway regulations come in. Basically, you can't have a metal frame with a plastic box backlit, typical suburban style sign. That won't fly there. So it's going to be either 2-pole or post and arm externally lit. And I think they had said they didn't want any, no lighting whatsoever. So that's what's proposed, and I wouldn't want any larger. If y'all want to make it smaller, you can obviously make it smaller.
That's certainly I would encourage y'all to look at the scale of the street and the frontage of the lot, knowing that your neighbor could do the same thing and your sign could be lost too. So, I just encourage that. It may be something we want to look at as in the old Conway design standards. But
Right.
obviously, that wouldn't be particular to them. We wouldn't want to impose on them something different than what the rest of the design standards would be.
The old conditional use for it was a 2x2. So
Right.
they just upped it to
And
the,
that goes back to, that goes back to our old zoning ordinance, I guess you could say, the conventional zoning ordinance. But it talks about restricted office, and it also, we picked that language up from a home occupation. It said you can only have a 2-foot by 2-foot unlit sign on the wall of the structure. And, I mean, you could fall back to that if you want, but I think they want a little bit more exposure.
Well, and I don't blame them. I mean, that's 4 times smaller than what, was allowed.
Yeah.
I just don't know if the 4x4 is absolutely the proper size and scale for every single lot in the old Conway
Right.
district. But it's something we should address district-wide and not just with this applicant.
how wide is that lot? 50, 60 feet wide, probably? It's not very big, I know.
It's fairly typical, so I would say no more than 70 or so. I don't, somewhere between 50 and 70. I probably knew at one time, but I don't know the
Yes.
Yeah.
measurement right now. It may be on the map here, but,
Anyway, I'm satisfied. It's just,
Looks like they got a lot 12 and
I'd guess
13.
60 looking at the map, just because it
Yeah.
looks a little bit wider than some of them, but.
I was going to say 60, but I was guessing. Any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, all in favor of this motion to approve this amended conditional use request number 1353 to allow a private mental health practice on property located at 1312 Donaghy Avenue with these 6 new conditions as Mr. Hawkins outlines. All in favor of that signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 6-0. Mr. Hawkins, thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
The next item is under public safety. It's the ordinance appropriating funds for travel and reimbursement for overtime for district court. And I see the judge was able to make it.
Welcome.
And this is just primarily an accounting ordinance. Anything else you would like to say about this one? I know your primary,
Not unless y'all have any questions.
that's good by me. It recognizes overtime and mileage to assist other courts of the district with the implementation of, I guess Context is a software package.
Correct. Yes, we switched the other courts to context, so we'll be even throughout the 7 courts, trying to catch the others up to speed.
Gotcha.
I make a motion to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
Motion and second to waive the 3 readings on this ordinance and bring it forward for action on tonight's agenda. All in favor of waiving the 3 readings signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 6-0.
You winding down, aren't you?
Make a motion for adoption.
Second.
Motion and second. This would be ordinance 016-120.
120.
Discussion?
Couldn't hardly get it out.
There is no discussion. Mr. Garrett?
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter? Yes. Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
The next item is an ordinance appropriating funds to enter into a contract agreement with our former head court clerk, Beth Thomas, to provide support and training for the district court because she's had a very sudden relocation.
Yes.
So Judge, why don't you walk us through the purpose of this one and what we're doing here?
Okay, and I want to introduce y'all. I think I put Beth Thomas in the email. It's actually, I put Brittany Thomas. It's Brittany Burnett. She has taken Beth's spot. So this is the new head clerk. Y'all will see her several times probably here in the next few months because it seems that all my meetings are overlapping. I have 9 budgets, so sorry that y'all will be seeing her and me some. Anyway, so that's Brittany. So what basically we're needing from Beth, and it's just a very minimum amount, is about 10 hours a week, and it may end up being less than that, are things that come up that we don't realize, that I don't realize, that I need to keep up with. Budget deadlines that Brittany is still trying to learn. The office workings, the day-to-day in the office, she's got that. She's been here for almost 4 years. It's what the head clerk did that Brittany is having to learn that Beth didn't have time to show her, or things that we forget about. grant funding is a huge one. That's probably my biggest one. The people that we deal with out of state for any training that has to do with the grants, national funding that we get, Arkansas Highway Safety funding that we get. A lot of those folks still have Beth's email, and it just little things like that that are coming up that we are being late on or not catching in time. Budgeting for my 9 budgets. I've got 7 cities and 2 quorum courts, deadlines for that some of the stuff is still going to still going to Beth and not going to Brittany. Brittany, what else can you think of? We're constantly calling just even small things like how to do the reimbursement forms, how to do, you could probably say it better than I can, things that we call her on.
Well, Judge Weaver's implemented a lot of new things since she came in, and Beth is the only one that has worked with those projects. So she's the only one that could foresee any issues that would come up and have shown me how to do that, and she just didn't have time to, and now there's nobody left. So I'm calling her as it is, and she's just helping me out of the kindness of her heart. So this would just be fair, maybe a little incentive to help me better and more.
Very good.
Now, Beth moved to Texas, correct?
She moved to Texas. Her husband got relocated. As soon as they found out that he was going to be relocated, she said, I'm going to be relocated. I don't know when. I know it's no later than October. So when that was a done deal, I knew that Brittany would step into that spot. So we tried to get Brittany in that transition while Beth was still here. And we probably had a month and a half.
True, but there were it was a lot of her just tying up loose ends, and a lot of what I'm doing now, it's not something that she could have shown me up front. It's learned when that issue comes up, okay, now, how do I handle it? Who do I call? And I could fumble through and figure it out, but she's already built a rapport with a lot of these other agencies, and it seems a waste to just let that fall by the wayside.
But eventually, it's gonna happen. I mean, it's gonna have to happen.
It is.
You've gotta take over and,
And I am, it's just there's a lot of.
emails can be forwarded.
yeah, the
things that
emails
she's
could be
doing that
forwarded.
could make it a lot smoother transition.
I guess my problem is she's living out of state. I mean, I know we've contracted before with Jeff West, but he lives here in Conway. He can run out to IT if he needs to. I just have a problem paying someone $3,000 that lives in another state that's gonna call you on the phone or email you or whatever for training purposes. I just think we're opening up a can of worms.
Well,
over
and the
long haul.
emails that are, I guess, still coming to Beth, those should automatically be forwarded to
Going to
whoever has that new position. So, I mean, she should, in all fairness, should be getting those emails. That happens all the time. When people leave, they divert the emails to whoever's in that position.
We should be able to get that fixed.
Yes.
Unless there was a private email, but we don't want to talk
Right.
about that in front of the election. So,
Right, and that's not an issue. It's more of what is in the emails from the previous 4 years, if we have to make reference to. And Felicia's been great. I know that she's called Felicia on several things on how to do things. It is just, it's so, there's always so many little things that are coming up that, I mean, that we just are not catching. And it's hard because, like I said, Beth did all of the grant paperwork, and the grants are probably my biggest concern because those are deadline specific. We don't get them in there, we lose them. And we've got about 50,000 in grants that since I've been in office that I've been able to get for us. We have got deadlines with those. Beth's got the report with the folks that give us those grants. And there was something else that had to do with the grant work. Oh, we have to keep data, certain types of data on the things that we're doing with the grants for sobriety court. Those are things that Brittany's got to be trained on, exactly what kind of data, how did Beth do it, what was the type of programs that she used to keep the data and stuff like that. And I don't have a problem if we even shorten it for 3 months or something like that. I think for me, we've implemented these changes. Now I've got 9 budgets going on at once, and I don't have Beth here. And then we're realizing, okay, wait a minute, I need somebody to be able to kind of help Brittany on some things when she's got questions and I'm not always here. And I spent 20 minutes on the phone with Beth this morning calling her over some issues, over some other sobriety court stuff that just.
and let me back the judge up on this. I'm of the opinion that no one is indispensable. And they can go. But there is no doubt a cost when they do go, and we have to learn things in their absence. Absolutely, there is a real cost there too. And this is $3,000 as a cap. spread over 6 months, that's not much money. And we can waste that much money in a hurry, not knowing how to do certain things, losing certain things. This isn't a bad expense. And she's gone. She doesn't have to do a thing to us. We can lean on her good feeling and goodwill towards her old employer, and she could talk to us for 20 minutes on the phone, but she doesn't have to, particularly if she's got another job at another employer and doesn't have the time for it. So, we don't have to do this, but there's going to be a learning curve that we're going to pay for one way or the other. And I think this could help shorten that learning curve and get the job done quicker, which ultimately is better for, our end user, our citizens.
I am sympathetic. Don't doubt me on that. But what happens if another department head comes and their right-hand person's leaving and, they want to compensate them and try to bring them on to train or whatever? It's
Well,
obviously
setting
opened
the
up a can of worms with
precedents.
Jeff because now someone else is asking for this to happen. I don't think it's just good practice to do that myself.
And you very well can, and we can get by, and the judge can get by. It just means the road gets a little lumpier and a little longer.
Right. And we
And
tried,
learning the new procedures and everything, and getting Brittany up to speed.
and we tried to keep her on as part-time, kind of as needed on an hourly basis, but after some discussion, thought maybe the contract would be the best over a period of time. And we're also taking the money out of other monies. I believe it's out of the part-time budget. So we're kind of taking money and losing a part-time help to try to help this. But like I said, I'd be willing if we need to shorten the length of time, if that would make anybody to feel better, just.
Are we paying her right now, you said?
No, I tried to, and I didn't realize there was an issue because she was living out of state for an hourly budget. So when I had spoke with the mayor and with Lisa, and then that's when we were going a different route. So she's just been helping us on anything that we've got now. She loved her job, so.
Oh, I know she did. She loved working with you.
And I will point out, you're just approving a contract. The money we're transferring, which we could do that right now, transferring from line item to line item, so it's no net revenue cost to us. It's just, the budget's not being touched. It's just we're shuffling money in it. That means we won't hire part-time, so it's not going to raise the budget in district court.
The other thing, as far as department heads, and I'm not going to knock anybody if I ever leave, some of the things that I've implemented were never done before me. So for me, I want to keep those grant money, those $50,000 in grant money. There's no guarantee that they'll be after. A lot of the things that we're needing help with are things that was not done until I got on the bench. They were not done in the past. So sure, we would help them, but there's still no guarantee they would do it. I can't promise that the next person will care about their job as much as I care about my job, or, try to get everybody up to speed with everything and go and be as aggressive with the grants and making the contacts and stuff like that. So as far as the day-to-day in the office stuff, Brittany's, she can run circles around most of the folks that are in here, and she's been here less than 4 years. It's just all the other stuff that we've kind of brought on with us that's the problems.
Well, it's
issues.
a lesson to be had. Someone else needs to be learning. Y'all need to be cross-training that position. So if you ever leave, we're not in a boat again like we are now. So.
Well, and I think for me, the biggest thing is setting the precedents. And
No
that's
doubt.
where I have an issue with it. I understand the money's there, I understand all that. And, transition happens, and none of us are indispensable. Heaven forbid, if something would have happened to her yesterday, somebody would have had to step in and fill the position. So you wouldn't have had that knowledge or that person there. And like I said, for me, it's more about the precedent setting,
Right.
and particularly with somebody living out of state. And I know you had mentioned the emails going to her and the rapport that she had established, but, if she's gonna be working, technically, the email should have been reversed to someone else anyway, the minute she left. So, that should have been immediate. And then as far as the rapport, if she's taking over the position, she's gotta develop those. She's not, this person's not gonna remain. That happens all the time.
Right, no, it's the introduction of it, because I don't even know who all Beth knew. And I could do it all because I'm the one that did it before, and I taught Beth all of it.
Right.
My problem is, trying to be politically correct. I am drowning, me as a judge, I am absolutely drowning, running 7 courts, 7 city councils, 2 quorum courts. And y'all know I'm always here. I think you know what I'm trying to say. So for me, it's like I am trying to where I had got Beth up on her feet and going, and then I'm like, now I'm working to try to make everything else good. I don't, and I could do it. I mean, it's not, I'm not saying I can't. I can. It's just going to be like, now I'm going to have to push these other places to the side. Not that any of them are not as important as Conway. Conway is just my biggest court. So if something happens here, it's got the biggest effect of damage. So obviously, I've got to take care of what I consider my hub of my will. This is, you know, this is my number, my priority. I'm trying not to say anything to get me in trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, we paid him.
Okay, we have an ordinance before us. We would need to waive the readings to consider.
Make a motion that we waive the readings.
Second.
Motion and second that we waive the 3 readings. Bring this ordinance forward for action on tonight's agenda. All in favor of waiving the readings signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
It's my concern,
That
but
passes
everybody
6-0.
I didn't.
This would be ordinance 016-121.
121.
Other discussion.
I just want to say thank you, guys. No matter which way it goes, I do thank y'all for the questions, and I know we've emailed back and forth. No matter what, I do appreciate the questions that I've received from some of the folks today, and that means a lot, that at least was being heard, no matter how it turns out, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to say something.
Well, so do I. Go
You
right
go
ahead,
first,
Mr.
young
Jones.
lady, and I'll go right after you finish.
Well, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I would like to make one point. I think the nature of how we budget and budget by position makes it difficult to have any overlap for that transition in training. And so for me, this looks like a cost-effective way to transfer that knowledge, since we can't, would have been great if we could have brought in, promoted the new person, had them both there at the same time, had that transition in
They were
training,
there for 6
and then the person left. But the way we budget doesn't really allow a lot of that, so
Not a lot of flexibility in there.
that was my point.
Yeah, 6 weeks. I mean, that's a long time to kind of get all up to speed.
For both people to be
Yeah,
in that
they
position?
were both
They were
there.
both there for 6 weeks.
She
Well,
started
Brittany-
training her
Brittany
when
was
she
still in
moved
her
over.
position
Yeah,
too.
she was still doing the
Yeah,
other.
she wasn't, it wasn't just she was following Beth, she was still had her full-time position. And then another thing that's happened, and I probably should throw this out, we've been down 6 people. We had a guy that retired, we had a guy that went to law school, we had a probation officer that moved to another county, we had a lady out for breast cancer, a lady out for hip surgery, and a lady that got mad and walked out. So not only, like,
Why have you replaced those positions?
you can only replace them, but now we're training them. So we've got both probation officers filled, everybody's filled now, everybody's good. But you know, the 2 medical ones, we can't replace those. I mean, they're out on medical leave. But the rest of them, we do have them in there. It's just, you know, when it rains, it pours. And like I said, I'm
I think we've all been there before.
yeah,
with
you know, I'm
stuff.
not,
I mean,
yeah,
we
that's,
just have
so
been.
that's some of the added as well to the problem. So it's not just that she wasn't getting the train, it's, during that same transition period, all this other stuff happened as well. So she's trying to do her full-time job, get new people hired, train them, learn her job. So it's just been
Sorry.
go ahead.
In my original position, a lot, probably most of that training fell to me to do. So it's really hard for me to train for a whole new position while I'm trying to train more than one new person.
Yeah, and we are doing the cross-training. We have been saying we're gonna do it, been saying we're gonna do it, been saying we're gonna do it. We're doing it now.
Yeah.
It is,
When it-
yeah, when it's like, okay, do or die.
Okay, Mr. Garrett did remind me, we don't have a motion on the floor, so
We
we do need a
I thought
motion.
we did.
We do.
We suspended it.
Oh, we
Waive the
don't.
readings.
We waived
Right.
readings.
So I will take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Now, Mr. Jones.
Thought we did.
I was wondering, you know, let me see.
We weren't going
Yeah,
to
that's
forget you,
me.
sir, yeah. Turn it this way so I can see it better. That's much better,
Getting a
yes.
little older, he probably can't focus. Anyway, I think the sticking point is because she's out of town, and I can kind of understand that. But by the same token, I know if someone is left, and I'm not calling names or anything, and we still paid someone a significant amount to help them in transition.
They
And
should
I'm
have been
done.
gone a long time ago, as far as I'm
I didn't say
concerned.
what it should have been done, I'm just telling you the facts.
We have spent too much money on stuff
Okay,
like that.
all right, I'm just saying.
Any other discussion?
Still not gone.
Yes, I said that.
Just like Jeff West's situation, Jeff is a great help,
Mhm.
and I know Beth is too, but I voted against that, and I can't support this either, because I think if you got somebody that rolls out, you need to have somebody that
Rolling
can
in.
roll right in there and pick up the ball.
And I respectfully, I mean, I respect your opinion, so I do.
That's the whole sticking point with all of us, I think,
Right.
that feel that way. That's, you know.
No, that's fine.
Mark, Ronnie, Hall.
Any other discussion?
Well, he,
Being an ordinance, Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Ledbetter?
No.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
no.
Ms. Isby?
No.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
That fails. It needs 5 votes to pass. So I can't even vote for it. So Judge, I apologize. It does fail. So. Very good. The next item,
C1.
the next items are personnel. We have consideration to approve the renewal of the voluntary benefits from Benefit Partners Flexco for fiscal year 2017. And then after that, we have consideration to approve the renewal of life insurance benefits from US Able fiscal year 2017, and then the dental benefits as well from Blue Cross Blue Shield. So, Ms. Mabry Williams?
On the voluntary supplemental employee benefit plans, it will continue with Benefit Partners Flexco for the 2017 year. None of the rates will go up. We have a rate hold on the vision insurance and the gap plans. The other voluntary benefits are based on age, so those premiums vary. They will continue to administer our Section 125 cafeteria plan free of charge. They also, the Legal Shield, we have a rate hold on it. It was a new benefit we added last year, the Legal Shield identity theft. And we just, this company has had a Benefit Partners Flexco, has provided voluntary supplemental benefits to the city since before I came to work here, so for over 12 years.
Make a
Predates me
motion-
as well.
Make a motion that we accept them for the calendar year 2017.
Second.
Motion and second to accept the renewal of the voluntary benefits from Benefit Partners Flexco for 2017. Any discussion? There is no discussion. All in favor of approving this renewal signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 6-0. The next up is the life insurance renewal from US Able. Ms. Mabry Williams?
US Able gave us, in 2014, gave us a 2-year rate guarantee of $1.80 per employee per month. They have renewed that again for 2017 and 2018 with no increase. In previous years, unfortunately, they did have to pay several claims. We haven't had that experience this year, but we have in the past. And we suggest that we continue our relationship with US Able Life. They
So
were good to
moved.
work with.
Second.
Motion and second to renew our life insurance benefit from US Able Life with a 0 rate increase for 2017. Discussion? There is no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 6-0. And the last item on the agenda, other than maybe adjusting our next council meeting, is consideration of the renewal for the dental benefits from Blue Cross Blue Shield for 2017. Ms. Mabry Williams.
Blue Cross Blue Shield has provided dental benefits to the city of Conway since 2006. We offer a dual option dental benefit plan. It's well received by our employees. They can buy up to a higher, richer plan if they wish. They also have a option to carry over if they don't use all their benefits in one year, to carry them over to the next year. So if they know they're gonna have quite a bit of dental work done, they're able to pay for it more affordably.
And we met before.
Blue Cross Blue Shield Dental has come back to us for 2007 with a 0 rate increase. So we respectably suggest that we stay with them for the 2017 calendar year.
Second.
Motion and second to stay with Blue Cross Blue Shield for the dental plan with a 0 rate increase for 2017. Discussion? If there is no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. One other piece of house cleaning before we can adjourn. Our next council meeting is scheduled for November the 8th. We have, on various occasions before, had an opportunity to have a quick council meeting on election night before an election. Results came in. However, none have had the potential entertainment value of this particular election. So, what's your wish? Do you want to continue on November the 8th, or do you want to move it to November the 15th or some other date?
What about y'all? Y'all,
I'd say continue on November 8th.
I say.
I see no reason to move it. I think we can be out of here in time for the festivities of whatever it is you're talking about. I mean, that's my opinion. Mr. Jones, do you have
What?
do you have an opinion?
I said,
He always has an opinion.
I know. That's why I was
oh,
asking.
man. I don't know. I hadn't
Always
really,
recognized for his opinion sometimes.
I hadn't really decided. I mean, I can just let the rough side drag, whatever y'all think.
But we've kind of got the decision in front of us. We've got to decide whether we want to, do we stay or do we
I
go?
think these two, y'all kind of need to, since y'all are,
I'm good with having it that night.
Everybody's okay?
yep.
Then
We'll have
we'll
a big
stand
screen
pat.
TV in it so I can see the scores and stuff.
They won't even be in
I
before
know,
then.
I know it. I'm fine.
They're holding signs at the.
Very good. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion and second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
That last hour. I don't think you
That
need to be
passes.
saying that. I know you don't care.
In my career.
Absolutely.
Hey, there is a chance, we bid out the new bridge in Raleigh.